Hello, everyone. It's Tony. I am back with another episode of Women in. I say every time I'm excited, and this time I am really excited because we get to talk about one of my favorite topics. But I'm not going to spoil it yet because you have to know what you're listening to first. So, Women in is a podcast that celebrates women and the individuals in their lives who are lifting them up. You will hear from all kinds of super cool people in my life, and they're going to share their stories to inspire others to support all the extraordinary women around them. This is a space to be disruptive, forward-thinking, and change agents for humankind. It is uncensored, fun, and curiosity-driven. This is what I'm passionate about, breaking down barriers for my kids' generation. It's equal parts about my guests and the places we came into each other's lives, whether it be the Kalamazoo Wings, Mindfulness Elevated, Tony Will Coaching, or you happen to be in my family and friends circle. My guest today, you'll find out quickly how we met, but I'll tell you this, we both don't really remember. Chris Wang is my guest today. He is the general manager of Wings West, which is the sister facility to Wings Event Center. Chris, how long have you been the GM there now?
The GM, I would say probably about 4 years. Assistant general manager before that for a handful of years, and then just always did the ice scheduling for both facilities. Ran the adult league, kept some games, skate guarded a few times, even though I was probably worse than most of the people out on the ice, but I didn't fall, so we're good.
So there's Chris's work bio. He also was a Division I cheerleader, which we're going to talk about at Western Michigan University, which is my alma mater as well. And
Yep.
one of Chris's hobbies is restoring football helmets.
Yep.
So this is me making up his bio on the fly, but he's excellent at restoring football helmets. And I've actually purchased a couple from
Yep.
him for my sports
Yeah.
loving son and husband. So
Yeah. Thank you.
am I missing anything in your made up on the fly bio that you want me
Nope. You got it down.
to? And he has a wonderful wife, Melissa.
Yep. I do.
So, and I'm sure she'll come up in our conversation today. So, welcome, Chris. It's so I'm not gonna lie, I had to convince Chris to come on my podcast, but I always gravitate towards people like Chris because he's quiet and I'm not, and so I'm going to ask you, and then I'll finally stop talking, like how we met. But we've always just had a great relationship, and I couldn't do this podcast without his experience in life, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So, Chris, how do you remember us meeting?
Honestly, like you said, I don't remember the exact date. It was probably just one of our many, many fun SMC Greenleaf meetings. So yeah, I don't remember exactly, but I think we just randomly appeared and we're like, oh, hi, Tony, hi, Chris.
I
And
know.
then we went from there and yeah.
Yeah, and I'm pretty certain one of my first things I said to you was, "You're a cheerleader." And I probably
Yeah.
said to you, "I was a cheerleader."
Yeah. And I think, yeah, that was probably it. And they were like, all right, we're instantly connected. This is going to work out well.
Yeah, and I have no doubt that's what I would say to you because I just thought it was so cool that you were a cheerleader. So let's start talking about that because I don't remember how we met either. I just knew you were just always been in my life and
Yeah.
certainly the last 10 years because we work and maybe this will be of interest to people to understand like because not all the podcast listeners are here locally. They're all over the country and in the world, which I look at the stats, I'm like, wow, people are listening to my podcast in whatever country. It's
That's
crazy.
so cool.
Yeah. But let's talk about how my job at the Kalamazoo Wings as a GM and you being the GM of Wings West, how do our lives intersect on a work basis? Let's explain to everyone that.
Yeah, I guess there's a bunch of like different dynamics, but I guess they, all link together. The number one thing is, we joke about it all the time between me, you, and Rob Underwood. We're always fighting for the same space, but I think, with the organization, communication, and understanding, we all work, well together, with our user groups as well. So, we talk about scheduling. Um, Whenever there's a special event coming up like Hockey Heritage this year, we work to make sure we have everything down to a T. We're always flexible because things happen last second and things like that. I work with Joe Roberts with sales, and then Clay as game operations. Then obviously they communicate with our Zamboni drivers that I oversee during the game with the ice crew and stuff. So a lot of communication, sponsorship. I think our dynamic with Koha, who is, there are youth hockey association in Kalamazoo. They sport the K Wings logo, modified a little bit where it says Koha on there, but that's a piece as well. So a bunch of different things, but it all just kind of together.
We do. We all in. So it's Rob Underwood is a general manager of Wings Event Center, which is the building the Kalamazoo Wings play in, and then I'm the general manager of the hockey team, and then Chris is the general manager of Wings West of the actual facility, which holds 2 sheets of ice, and then we have Mark Mattern, who is the GM of the restaurant that sits inside of
Yep.
Wings West. So the 4 of us are peers, and we work together to help each other's businesses, and
Yep.
we all intersect
Yep.
in one way, shape, or form. I will point out that I'm the only woman in that group,
Yep.
which kind of stems from this podcast. And it's funny because I never thought of myself as a minority in anything that I've done. And I was a couple years into this job, and I'm sitting in a board of governors meeting, and I look around and I'm like, holy shit, there was one other woman there, and this is a board of 60 people. And I'm like, I've got some work to do here, because I didn't really realize how male dominated sports
Yeah.
was, because I didn't have an interest in this. I fell into this on accident, and hence began my mission to bring awareness for women in sports. But that, of course, has expanded beyond just gender and into race and ethnicity. So for people who aren't watching this, Chris is not white. So I want to put I,
Okay.
I want to point that out, because this is one of the things when we were talking a couple weeks ago, and I called him and I said, I really want you on my podcast. One, because I like you, but two, you are tell everyone how you identify. What's your ethnicity?
Chinese.
Chinese.
Yep.
So, and you are you are the only Chinese person at Greenleaf, I believe.
Robert Chu, or Roger Chu.
Roger. So yeah,
Yeah.
forever it was just you.
Just me.
Yeah, just you. So what is that like? Because no one talks about it. And not that you want every meeting to open up with, welcome Chris Wang, he's Chinese. That would be a macro aggression.
Yeah.
But what has that experience been like, and for you throughout your whole career?
Yeah, I mean, with Greenleaf, there's really never been, a negative moment. I feel, there's really been nothing within the company that's held me back. That I believe, because of my ethnicity. So I mean that's been great. They've treated me just like they treat everybody else. I'm just another. I don't want to say just another employee. That's certainly not the case. But they're just I don't feel like I'm viewed any different or treated any differently, positively or negatively. And that's all I ask. I think just, being equal and having the same opportunities, which I'm, very, very thankful for.
Yeah. Do you, I guess, how many people have asked you about it? I mean, I know I'm not afraid to talk to you about it, but to be
Uh,
fair, it's not like I brought it up really ever because, because some people, let me position this a little better. There are very few people that come up to me and say, what is it like to be a woman in sports? I appreciate when people ask me, because they notice that I'm a minority and want to hear my perspective. So, have you been asked about it? How do you feel about people asking you about it? What do you
they've
think?
never really asked me like on a professional level, like how it is, being a general manager of an ice rink. I think sometimes they're probably surprised when, when they see me. But nothing. I don't think anybody has ever asked. I've had other, whether Chinese or Korean, guests just ask, what my nationality is, and then sometimes, we're the same Chinese, and we'll speak a little bit, and it's always fun, and we smile. But I don't think anybody's really ever asked that aspect of it, like at a professional level, like how it is. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So, pardon my own ignorance, but I want to
no.
understand Chinese culture a little better. There's different cultures within China or different languages. Explain that to me.
Yep. So there's two different dialects in Chinese. There's Mandarin Chinese and there's Cantonese Chinese. My family and I, we speak Mandarin. I was born in Taiwan, and then my family and I we moved over when I was 3 years old. We moved to the States. My father, his older brother, so my uncle, he him and his family they lived in the States in Michigan for a few years before my family came over. So we did, it was kind of a, my uncle kind of helped us out a little bit. My dad graduated with an engineering degree in Taiwan, so he came over to the States. The American dream, you know,
Mm.
land of the free,
Yeah.
get a job, make a lot of money, that type. And then my mom finished college here in the U.S. in Michigan. So,
And that's how you
but
ended up in Michigan.
yep, that's how I ended up. Moved to just kind of the Detroit area, the suburbs of Detroit. Been in Michigan my whole life. The funny story was that my family, they set a deadline, like, hey, by, and I'm not sure the exact dates, but they said, hey, by June 1st, my dad wanted to get a full time job, a career established in Michigan, something that he felt was a good opportunity to build for his career, and the deadline was coming close, and I think we were at maybe a couple weeks. But then finally, he found that opportunity. He was hired on with an engineering firm. So sometimes it's crazy to think that I may not be here, could be living in Taiwan or something.
Taiwan,
So
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Have you gone back to Taiwan? Do you have relatives? I
yep,
would imagine you do.
yep. My mom's side of the family is still back there. I've gone back there twice. When I was younger, I think eight, when I was 8 years old. And then my senior year of high school, I went on spring break. So actually planning on going this upcoming spring.
Oh, cool.
My parents, myself, my wife, my brother, sister-in-law, and their daughter. So we're going to take a trip to Taiwan in April. So very excited about that.
Yeah, because it's been no. I mean, you look great. You're young, but I know you and I are
A
close in
lot of
age.
years.
You and I are pretty close in age, so you haven't been there
Yeah.
in a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. It's probably
Wait,
20,
2020.
25,
Yeah,
27. Oh.
yeah. What a fun trip. How long are you going to go for?
We're probably going to go for, I think, 10 or 12 days. Our plan is to go to Taiwan, I believe, for about 6 or 7 days a week. And then we're going to go to China for probably 4 or 5 days. And then we'll come back to the US. So my brother's wife, my sister-in-law, she's from China. So she's going to show us around. We'll see all the cool. I mean, there's probably a ton of cool spots. We're only probably just tip of the iceberg. But I'm looking forward to eating. I just want to eat all the food.
It sounds what a fantastic trip, and how exciting for you to
Yeah.
go and to be able to bring your wife. And now your
Yeah.
wife is white, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. So how was your family at when you decided you were going to marry Melissa? Were they welcoming to that? Was there any
Oh
cultural?
yeah. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. They were definitely welcoming to her. I think they were just happy. They're like, hey, you finally found somebody, and,
You
and
did
she's
wait.
great,
You
and
did
she
wait a
is.
while.
I think they like her better than they like me. So I mean, I'm cool with that. My little niece, she loves her more than anything. So yeah, no, it's been
Yeah.
awesome.
I saw a picture on social media of her when you because your birthday was yesterday, right?
Uh, Tuesday. Yeah. Yeah.
Tuesday. That's right.
Yep.
It's the day before my mom's birthday, and I saw a picture of you and her on Facebook, and she is
Yeah.
just so adorable. And your niece, your wife's adorable too. But
Yeah.
so you speak Mandarin,
A little bit. Yep.
okay? And
I can get by. I can have conversations with my parents. It's pretty crazy. Like my wife can obviously tell you firsthand. Like when I'm at home, I'm speaking to my parents. It's a blend of Chinese and English, and it's, you don't even think about it, and you'll say the entire sentence or paragraph or conversation is in Chinese, and all of a sudden I'll be like, computer monitor, and it's just like, so it's like speaking two languages, and just,
so
it just rolls off the tongue. Yeah.
it's like Manglish.
Yeah. And my wife will be like, Mel will be like, oh yeah, you guys were talking about computer monitors, huh?
Well, at least she can pick. That's kind of nice when you
Yeah,
don't know the language and you're like, okay, she can pick up like bits and pieces because they're in English.
yeah, yeah,
So tell me, besides me begging you to come on the podcast, what interested you in actually being on a podcast that's called
yeah.
Women In?
Well, this is definitely my first podcast, so I was excited about that. Like, I had to pretend that you were twisting my arm just to give you a tough time, but I was definitely looking forward to it. I think the big thing is just, my relationship with you. We've known each other for, 10 some years, and I think we've always had, a good relationship, professional level, and then we can just like joke about all sorts of crap just to like, just to ease the moment, I guess,
Yeah.
just to have fun, because I always look at, sense of humor, being able to laugh during those stressful times. So I think we've, always had a good relationship. So I, look forward to it. It wasn't, I had to pretend that I didn't want it.
Oh, well, you did a good job.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, reply to my email.
Like, no.
Well, and you saw what's interesting is you've been with Greenleaf for a long time and you've seen different individuals in my role,
Yep.
different men. So, what would you say it has been different watching me do this job than the other people that you've seen do it, the other men that did it?
Yeah, I would say, um, like, I mean, we've gone through the battles, like we've seen some of the uh-ohs that happened prior to your tenure. I don't want to give some specifics because I don't want people to
Sure.
get angry at me, but like I think you definitely changed the culture of, the hockey club, how it's ran. I think there was a lot of disconnect with season ticket holders, casual fans,
Hmm.
even user groups. So I think you were able to kind of repair relationships, um, change the status quo
Yeah.
in a way, like, hey, just because we're doing something or we've always done something doesn't mean it's always the right thing to do, or sometimes it's a good, but we can always make things better. So I think you've done a lot of that. I think I've enjoyed working with everybody in your front office. It's I don't see them often because I'm at Wings West and obviously they're at Wings Event Center. But whenever I'm there, if we have something going on the other two sheets of ice, and I run into the hockey, your crew at the hockey club, it's always a smile. It's always a hey,
Mhm.
happy to see each other. So I think it's definitely that family culture. I think you built that too. So, um, but yeah, I think I guess I've worked with you longer than the previous general managers in the past, which is a good thing. You're
I've
doing
stuck
something right.
around. Yeah, a lot of GMs sometimes it's like coaches, you get hired to get fired, but
Yeah,
it's different and because I don't that's not how Greenleaf works anyways, but
yeah.
yeah, it's interesting because you mentioned culture, and I know that I didn't know the gentleman that ran
Hmm.
the franchise before me. I only heard stories. But the one difference in my role, as you know, but I try to talk about this publicly when it is the right time, which is I don't manage hockey ops. So
Hmm.
even though my title in pro sports implies that like Joel Martin is my peer, he's your peer, like he sits in meetings. And Joel's been on this podcast too, and so I don't oversee that. I partner with Joel on this stuff, but I'm all the business side. And so I say all that because it was different pre me. Like the general
Yeah.
manager had more um, control or oversight on the hockey ops side. So there's a big difference in that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think a lot of times good leadership too is, knowing what your responsibility is. Obviously making that impactful, being successful on that, but not faking some of the stuff that you're not responsible for and just trying to have that like, oh, I, got to do this, trusting obviously, a Joel, and then even, Nick before that, that's always good. And I kind of look at the same thing with myself and Mark Maddern. We work hand in hand in this building, and my business is successful when he's successful, and kind of vice versa. So it's just having that trust and good peer to peer working relationship. So
Yeah,
yeah,
100%. The culture is really important to me. So I appreciate you noticing that
yeah,
because it's something that I've worked I
yeah,
work really hard for, and I care about
yeah,
my people and the people I work with authentically for sure.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, we got to move to cheerleading because it's very exciting for
All
me.
right, I'm ready.
You will probably be the only cheerleader I have on this podcast. So, okay. I need to know, and I don't know this story. So talk to me about your passion. Like you were obviously, it sounds, I mean, if you're Division I cheer and then you coached for a long time afterwards. So how did you end up
Yep.
with cheerleading? Tell me about that.
All right. So I would say way back in high school, our senior year of high school, myself, three of my other buddies, like we all played football. The team, the cheerleading team, they had a handful of guys on the team. And then so during football season, during the fall, we played, and then they were on the team. But I guess once football season ended, apparently, I think the story, like with the three guys, one got hurt, one moved, and then the other one just didn't want to be the only guy by himself, so they didn't have, all the guys were gone. Myself and three of my friends, none of we didn't play any winter sports, and we're friends, really good friends with a lot of the cheerleaders, the girls on the team. So they asked, like, hey, you guys want to come out to practice and do some stuff? We're like, no, that's okay. We're not guy cheerleaders. It's cool. And we're still friends with them and stuff. And they just kept on asking and asking. We're like, all right. Felt bad always saying no. We're like, okay, let's try this out. So we went to a practice and they're showing us how to do like all these tosses and lifts. We're like, all right, this is pretty cool, right? Doing the thing where they kind of sit on your hands. So we're learning stuff. It was really fun. And then just kept on going to a couple practices. And then they hit us. They're like, hey, do you guys want to go to a competition with us? We're like, no, we're not cheerleaders. We're good. We're just having fun. They're like, well, it's in Florida. You get to be on ESPN. And it's at Disney. We're like, we're in. Oh, yeah. And they said we get to miss school too. So that was like the key. Like, all right, we're in. So, practice, we competed, went down to Florida. So it was just on ESPN. You see that in the fall or winter, that is, like the ESPN competitions at Disney. And then season was over. We're all going our separate ways. One of my good friends, he's my best friend now. He lives down in Louisiana, but at that time we were both going to Western Michigan. And he's like, hey, they have a cheerleading team there. You want to come up? They have like a clinic and a camp that we can like try out. I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't think my parents will be too happy if I did this in college. He's like, oh, well, why don't you come up with me anyways? Because, we had to get a drive from Kalamazoo. We're from the east side of the state. So I'm like, all right, cool. So I drove with him to Western. We're in the field house. And then, all right, now we're talking about college girls. Different level. So like, hey, you want to be on the cheerleading team? I'm like, yes. So that's how it started.
Oh my gosh, what an
Yeah.
amazing story. Okay,
Yeah.
so did you have to try out?
Yep, they had tryouts, and I was nervous that I was going to make the team. Like my friend, he was better than me, and then they have guys that were on the team before, so I'm like, oh man, I'm super nervous that I'm not going to make the team. And then thankfully, I made it out. I guess I was good enough. Made the team, and then I think that year we had 10 or 12 guys. So, and then I think probably like 12 girls. We had the same number of girls and guys. But yeah, and
And
then
and how many years did you cheer?
I cheered for actually I cheered for 5 or 6 years. So I did it all throughout undergrad. Graduated from Western with a marketing degree. Took a semester off, and then decided that hey, hopefully my parents don't see this. I'm like, I didn't really want to get a job, so I'm like, I'll go back to school. Got my degree. Went for my master's in sports administration. Cheered for another, I think, 2 years, and then graduated. And then actually the last semester of my master's program, we were required to either put on an event, write a thesis, or obtain an internship. So that's kind of how I found the Kalamazoo Wings. Worked with the hockey club as an intern, game ops. Did that for a semester, and I graduated in December. And then back then, interns all worked for free. So they asked me to come back to finish hockey season. I'm like, all right, well, but you got to pay me now. So which they did, and did a few slappy appearances all throughout the second half of hockey season, and that was 2000, I think 5 or 6, the year the team won the cup.
Yeah.
So that was an awesome year. And then after the season was over, I was offered a job in the ice events department working for the facility, and yeah, been here ever since.
You
And then
your one and only job.
yep. So I've been
Wow.
with the company for 19 years, and then started coaching Western Michigan, the cheerleading team, somewhere around 2006, 2007. It was the year that right after they made it to the International Bowl where we played in Toronto,
Hmm.
Canada. So the year after that, I started. I was the head coach of the team.
Wow. That is,
Yeah,
I mean, okay, so these are, I know I talked about this years ago, but I need to, so what, okay, I have so many questions. Let me
yeah.
filter them in my brain because I don't
Fire away.
remember any of this. Okay. Did you get made fun of because you played football? Like talking
Hmm.
about your masculinity. Was that ever questioned either by you or others because you were a football player and then you move over to cheerleading? And there are stereotypes about
Yeah,
male cheerleaders. So how did
yeah.
you grapple? Because this was the late 90s, right? When
Yep, yep, late 90s. I graduated high school in 1998.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what was that like for you? Did you grapple with that? Did people make fun of you?
Um, not my peers at school, like they we really didn't get made fun of. I don't remember. I mean, we played football too, so you know, I I definitely don't remember if there was any in high school. And then in college, I would say I mean, if you go to an away game or something like you're at Marshall, Huntington, West Virginia, people will talk crap to you no matter what. So there's probably a little bit of that. Um, I, I'm sure there was, but I mean, if there was, I just shrugged it off. I don't really care,
Yeah, so it
what
didn't
people
bother you.
think. Yeah, it didn't bother me because I'm like, you can call me whatever, you think I'm this or think I'm that. I'm like, in the end, I'm hanging out with some like pretty hot chicks, so it's cool. I'm like, do you get to hang out with them? You don't, so I make fun of you.
And that's a beautiful reframe,
Yeah,
quite honestly.
yeah.
Um, and because I grew up in Vicksburg and I was a cheerleader. Now,
Uh
I never made it, Chris, to Division One cheer.
huh.
And I grew up as a gymnast, and so I could tumble and stuff. Now, did you tumble, or were you doing a lot of bases for the stunts?
It was a lot of bases, whether if it's pyramids or just like the single stunt where the guy holds the girl up in the air. I learned a little bit along the way. I wouldn't say I was ever very good at it. I can get myself over without injuring myself. If I got scored on it, it definitely wouldn't be anywhere close to a 10, but
Yeah.
I landed on my feet.
So you could do when you say that, like you could do like a back handspring at.
Yep, back handspring, back tuck. I think the most advanced tumbling pass that I could do was like a round off handspring tuck.
Look at
Not
you.
very good again, but
No, but you could do it. And
yeah.
now I'm going to go out on a limb because I couldn't do that now if anyone paid me money. Do you think you could?
Oh hell no, no. I
I
was yeah. I tried to do a cartwheel and I seriously thought both my knees were going to explode.
I can still do cartwheels.
Yeah,
Josh did a video of me last summer in our front yard, and I did it.
yeah,
Now I look like
nice.
a middle-aged woman, but I am a middle-aged woman.
Uh,
So, um, what was your experience like? Okay, you mentioned West Virginia, so I want to ask a question. I did not prep you for any of this, so if it's out of pocket,
huh.
I'll have Tim edit it out. But did you experience any racism when visiting other states, or were people calling you names ever?
No, I would definitely not anything like race wise. I mean, if they did, it would just be like because I was the visiting team.
Yeah.
A lot of middle fingers and you suck
Okay.
type of a thing. But I was pretty fortunate, and I know there's probably a lot worse out there. Maybe because I was a larger man, they were maybe intimidated
Yeah.
by
Yeah.
me thinking I would fight back or say anything back. But I honestly like I think I'm pretty fortunate where I didn't experience much or any of that along
Really?
the way.
That's
So yeah,
awesome. No, that
yeah,
says a lot for how we've come as a culture. And yeah, I'm reading a book right now called "Shut Out," a game that didn't love me black. It is
uh
by
huh,
Bernie Saunders, who is a former K-wing,
yeah,
and he played at Western Michigan University. And the racism that he experienced,
oh yeah,
um, I mean, it brought. I am like I came out of the womb as a justice seeker, and so my heart just breaks as I read his book because he's coming here to Kalamazoo
yep,
next month for Hockey Heritage, and I just think of the things that were said to him
yeah,
in our building by fans,
yeah,
and just really derogatory name calling,
yeah.
and I just I didn't know if you experienced that on the other side in cheerleading or visiting other teams. And sports can be by I mean, for those of you who
Oh
don't
yeah,
work in sports, The word fanatic doesn't even begin to describe it because people get irrational.
Hmm.
And so I'm so happy that you didn't experience that.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, they're so just so passionate. They're so blinded by passion, I guess. They don't see what they're doing. Like I couldn't imagine what these athletes went through, athletes of color went through back in the 60s, 70s, 80s. I mean, you hear some of those stories now. Like the one that always pops up, there's always something like the Boston Red Sox, right?
mhm.
You hear that a lot, and it's saddening, it's disheartening that
Yeah,
there's still that out there. It's like that's an old thing. Like why? It's just, I don't know. it's
yeah,
it's hard to describe. And um but yeah, you know
yeah.
it makes you angry that
I
people
get
have to go through that.
I'm irrash. I get so angry, and then
Yeah.
and I that's and I believe people that don't talk about it are complicit, and
Mm,
so and that's why I choose to talk about being a female in this space. Like I want the women behind me to like not run into some of the barriers I'm running into, and I'm a white woman. Imagine
mm,
if I were a Chinese woman,
yeah.
might be harder for me. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's just so like I said, it makes me happy that you hadn't experienced that in your tenure as a cheerleader.
No.
So when you switched over from cheering to coaching, how was it hard? Um, or did you enjoy it?
No, no, not really, because I thought back of that transition, like what, and I've been asked, like, oh, how did you know you wanted to coach? Like I would say, even though while I was out on the team, I enjoyed like the organization. I enjoyed coming up with fundraisers, or designing T-shirts, or hey, we got to go to all these businesses and try to do this and that to get T-shirts. Get the, oh, back when I was on the team, like, but back when I was on the team, the university and athletic department, we weren't sponsored by Adidas. We had to go out to the Spirit Shop, Papa John's, this Tanner, this place, to see if they would donate, a couple $100 so we could have T-shirts for the year, where we would put their, the company logo on the back, and then Western Michigan Cheerleading on the front, or something like that. So I was already kind of doing those things only because I enjoyed them. Not,
Mhm.
I wasn't doing them because, oh, I want to be a coach, or I want to take over as the coach. So along the way, I guess, then I kind of I fell into it, throughout my career. Like I had wonderful coaches along the way, and I took, little bits of pieces of, whether it was my coach in high school, my first college coach here, or my second or my third, just took little pieces of stuff that, I felt that they did great. Use those things, but then wanted to mold the program in the way that I saw it, like how I wanted to go. I always told my cheerleaders, where I'm like, hey, just because we're a mid major, we're Western Michigan University, like I don't want you to have only those experiences. I want to give you, or you know, I want you guys to have the same opportunities as the cheerleaders at the University of Michigan or Michigan State. Yeah, sure, we may not play in all those Big Ten stadiums, but I want to travel. I want to go everywhere. I want you guys to have two sets of uniforms. 8 T-shirts, and just a lot of stuff. So, a lot of fundraising and things like that. I wanted them to have all the experiences that they could,
Mhm.
during their short college career. Opportunities that I may not have been able to have while I was on the team, but I wanted. So, I kind of worked hard towards that. So hopefully, all the cheerleaders I had in the past, just, hopefully they appreciate that, and just have those lifelong memories that they got to go to this place or that place. So,
Yeah. Do you find, because you were head coach for how many years?
oh shoot, I think like 15, maybe somewhere. I lost count, but yeah, somewhere around 15 years.
So you saw, I would imagine you'd get to know the other coaches for the other
Yep.
teams. Were you one of the only male head coaches?
Um, Actually, there are a lot of male coaches at the college level, because it was guys teaching guys the stunting. Not to say, it can't work the other way. So I think it was just kind of a natural thing. There was a lot of male coaches.
Okay.
Just I guess more than you would think. there are. Definitely not at the high school level. I would say the majority of the high school coaches are females, because you don't find many males cheerleading in high school. But yeah.
What would you say was your the biggest feather in your cap as a coach that you're the most proud of that you accomplished in those 15 years?
The thing I'm most proud of, I would say, getting the program back to competing at UCA Nationals
Mm.
down in Florida. I had the opportunity to compete in high school for the 1 year, and then we competed, I think, 2002 when I was on the team, my senior year in college. And then after that, the team just, the university decided, hey, you guys aren't allowed to compete anymore. You did nothing wrong, but we don't want you to compete. So that was one of those challenges for me, was to build a program that could compete, and then to show, our peers, our family, our fans, that hey, just because we're not competing, it doesn't mean we're not good enough. We're just not able to. So it was kind of my goal, my mission, to be the best cheerleading program in the state of Michigan, whether we could compete or not compete. So we would always put on a halftime routine at the end of basketball season, where we would try to do the hardest stuff we could, that we saw, at nationals, and try to do some of those things, because that was just kind of my goal, is to be the best that we could. And then I think came somewhere around 2000, dating myself here, check, remember 2018? No, we went to the Cotton Bowl in 2016, I believe. So somewhere around there. It was actually the year before that was the fun, or 2 years before that was the funny thing. We still weren't able to compete. One of my really good friends, he coached Central Michigan University, and he knew how badly I wanted to get our program back to nationals. So he actually invited me to go with their team to nationals.
Mm.
So I went with them, supported. Like, he was one of my really good friends. I was supporting them. They asked me to wear a Central polo.
What?
And I was like, ugh, I can't. But I did it for him, because he afforded me the opportunity to go with their team, and I had a really good time, so I did. And oh my God, the backlash! What the hell is this? Why are you wearing a Central shirt, traitor, and all so on and so forth? I'm like, listen. And once I explained the story, everybody got it.
Yeah.
And then, but that opened the eyes of our athletic department. Like, hey, why are you doing this? And I explained it to him, like, well, this is the reason. I was pretty fortunate enough that they let me go with them. This is where I would like to take the program. So why don't you let us go?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, after a few more meetings and discussions, we had the opportunity to do that. So that was kind of my, one of the things I'm super proud about is just getting the program back to nationals.
That is awesome. One of the questions I asked is how you lift women up, but you literally lifted women up.
Yeah.
They would do the
Yep.
what are the
The
chairs?
one arm.
The
Yeah.
the chairs and the
Yeah.
you literally lifted women up. But
Yeah.
I just think that is so. Another question is: did you choreograph all this, or did you work with? How detailed were you in all of the cheering and the competing and all that?
I choreographed all the routines that we used at nationals. I would certainly always take input from the team or assistant coaches, or just watching a lot of video of other teams and seeing, like, okay, this is a cool pyramid, or this is a cool transition. How can we change it up a little bit to kind of do something, put a new spin on it? So I would always try to choreograph what we did.
That's so cool. See,
Yeah.
multi-talented. Now we
Yeah.
talk. I wanted to know if you could do jumps. I remember asking you that. Like, if
Nope.
I know you said that. You go,
No jumps.
no jumps.
No.
And, but see, I was never like, I'm petite, I'm short, but I was never a flyer. And just so everyone knows, in the cheerleading world, that's the girl who goes up in the air. But
Yeah.
I was always I was the base.
Mm.
I was not. I'm more muscular. So, but yeah, I just think that's so cool, and just what to hear about all those years and how you accidentally
Yeah.
got into this world, and then you now you can forever say you were a 15-year Division I head cheerleading coach. It's just
Yep.
what an accomplishment,
Yeah.
and while working full time.
Yep.
That's a lot. No wonder you were single for so long.
Exactly. Yeah. So it was, I would say, hockey season, football, so pretty much September through March, it was just go all day, every day, 7 days a week, push as hard as you can. I mean, it's still sports, and in the end, it's sports.
It,
It's so much fun. Oh darn, I gotta go to a bowl game. Oh darn, I get to have to go watch a basketball game. Be on the field and have the best seats there are. So in the end, it's sports. We're so fortunate and lucky to be
yeah.
in a world or a job industry that we love.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a lot of long days,
It is.
consecutive long days.
It is. Sports is fun. It's sexy. It's cool, but it is long days. It's non-traditional hours. We work on
Yeah,
holidays and weekends, and but I love that. I love the flexibility of that. I
yeah,
did the 9 to 5 for a long time, and
yeah,
I like this better.
yeah. And I think we're fortunate enough too, where we have the trust,
Hmm.
of our supervisor, our boss, I guess, to know that because he understands like what we put ourselves through and just having that flexibility. We all do a good job of what we get done what we need to get done, and in the off season, it's still plenty busy in the off season, but it's just not as intense
Yeah.
as hockey season where we can take a little bit of a break or a breather and stuff like that, and the opportunity to work from home. And I think one of the good things in a way that came out of COVID was just this whole world of virtual meetings. So,
Mhm.
I think that's kind of eased up some of that hecticness too. So,
Yeah.
I think we're pretty fortunate
We are. We are
to
very.
have that ability. But
So, who are the women that have made Chris Chris? Like, who are the women in your life that you that are part of who you are today that you want to mention?
yeah, I would say in no particular order,
Hmm.
but maybe the only order would just be throughout, I guess, the years,
Hmm.
starting the earliest. Obviously my mom, number one.
What's
Um,
your mom's name?
uh, my mom's name is Mary
Mary.
Wang.
Okay. Now,
Yep.
does she have a different Chinese name?
Yep, Manlin Wang.
What do you have a different Chinese name?
I do.
Do you talk about it publicly?
It's a secret to everybody.
Really? Has anyone
Yep.
ever asked you?
Oh, people ask me all the time, and I tell them I joke around. I'm like my middle name is Steve.
All right, you don't have to answer that, but off air, everyone, he's going to tell me.
Oh yeah, I probably will. It's just more. Actually, I probably won't. I'm just gonna keep it a secret. Like, it's one of those things where you have to hold on to it.
Yeah,
You
I
know.
just didn't know that. Okay. So, all right,
Yeah.
Mary. All right.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So my mom, number one, and then I guess moving throughout my high school career, obviously my high school coach, my first cheerleading coach, Tracy, got us involved and showed us the amazing world of cheerleading. Not only like she was a cheerleader at both Michigan and Michigan State. Then our head coach in high school, and then I think Jess Jessica, she was one of my coaches, and then another Tracy was one of my coaches at Western. So there were two of the three that I took
Mhm.
really good pieces of what they did and kind of molded it into what I wanted to do. Um, really hoping I'm not missing anybody. Definitely my wife.
I was going to say,
She's number one A. But yeah, she's amazing. She actually played Division I softball at Western.
oh,
She was an infielder. So we'll play like during the summer co-ed softball, and she throws the ball way harder than I do. It's kind of embarrassing sometimes. And when we're warming up, she'll just like fire one in on the first ball, and it hurts my hand. And then I'm like, oh, and I throw throw it back to her. She's just gunning them at me. So no, yeah, she's awesome.
yeah.
Um, and then one of my good friends, Megan, I cheered with her at Western, and then she was an assistant coach. And then Courtney, she actually coaches the program now. I don't have much interaction with the program anymore. I guess mainly through Courtney and some of the alumni. I would say that's my interaction. But yeah, I wanted it to be her program. Like I'm always there for her if she has any
True.
questions about fundraising and events and just any sort of advice. So I guess she still gives me some like super cool gear too. So I'm super proud of that.
That's awesome.
Still got the good stuff. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, then obviously you, we work hand in hand. We're peers. So I like I said, I probably said it before. I thoroughly enjoy working with you. I think we have the same. We can joke about the same things. We can be frustrated about the same things. I can call you and just vent for 5 minutes about something,
Hmm.
and then I you can always do that.
I do. I
Same
call
with
him like
me too.
Chris.
So yeah,
Even
yeah.
though I don't know your Chinese name.
It's Steve.
Steve.
Yeah.
No, I want to ask a question about this. Is there a reason is it because Americans don't know how to pronounce it? Is that why you do an American name or why what is that a cultural thing? I literally don't know.
No, so when I would say my legal name before was always my Chinese name.
Okay.
And then sometime in late elementary school or high school, because it was harder to pronounce,
Mhm.
and then it'd probably get butchered. And
Yep.
then I'm like, all right, we're just gonna make this easy. Like, people, I was just like, yeah, call me Chris. Um, but that wasn't my legal name. And then at some point we made it my legal name, and so that's what everything says Chris or Christopher now. And
Okay.
then my Chinese name is my middle name.
Yeah. Okay. So your so Christopher Chris was in your given name at birth somehow.
No, no, no. That was just kind of when we came to the States. I
That's
would
where
say,
it came from.
oh, we'll call him Chris. Okay.
Okay, I wondered
Yeah.
that. All right, I didn't know
Yep.
that's how it worked.
Oh.
Yeah. All right. See, I hopefully someone else is different
Yeah.
like me, but that's why I asked because I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
No, okay. Well, and what a beautiful group of women you're surrounded by, and I mean, I can only imagine if I were to talk to the probably hundreds of cheerleaders you coached over the years, how you inspired them and helped them get to where they wanted to be. So
I
I
hope
mean,
so.
I would imagine they would say that. All right, so I got to ask. Well, there's one. I'm going to go to a fun question right now.
Okay.
Are you, and I have no idea how you're going to answer this. When you're looking in the refrigerator and there's something, you pull something out and it's like just a little bit past the expiration date, are you going to try it and like say, oh, I'm okay? Like that's a guideline? Or are you someone that's like, nope, it's a rule and you throw it out?
Oh no, I'll definitely try it. I do the smell test first.
Yeah,
Well, first you look at it to make sure there's no green or black dots.
fair,
And
fair.
then you do the smell test and it's like, okay, is it really that expired?
Okay.
I've made the wrong decision a couple times.
You have. And what's
Yeah.
happened? Like food poisoning?
Oh no, not food poisoning. It was just like, okay, yeah, this tastes really gross. I can taste something I didn't want to taste. Or freezer burn, and you're like, oh, I
Yes.
really want to eat this, and then you get it, you make it all up, you take a bite, you're like, okay, I think I tasted a little bit, but let me take a second one. Okay, yeah, we're done.
Okay, so you fall in my camp. Now, is your wife that way, or is she similar to you, or is she like throw it out?
Oh, she'll throw it out. She's allergic to mold, so
Okay.
she's extra cautious. Sometimes she'll be like, "Oh yeah, this is bad. You try." I'm like, "What the hell?
Wait, what have I
Why do
have
I
found
gotta try it?"
now this
But then
is
I still do.
now this isn't a formal research, but I do ask some of my podcast guests. But I find 100% of my guests that I ask this question to, in a couple that's married, one is like they throw it away because it's past. That's my husband, and then there's people
Mhm.
like us who are like, it's a guideline.
Yeah, yeah.
So
It's just a suggestion.
exactly,
But then I
exactly.
do find sometimes though, it's like things can be bad before that date too. So it kind of works both ways. Where just because it's past the due date, it's not always bad.
This is true.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to ask you about sports. Now, I don't know
Yep.
much about this, but I do know, I mean, I know enough to be dangerous, but I do know this. The Detroit Lions are playing well this year,
Mm-hmm.
correct? And you are
Oh
a big
yeah.
Detroit Lions fan, correct?
Yeah.
And how do you feel about this season thus far?
Oh, I mean, it's fantastic. I mean, I think being everybody that's been a Detroit Lions fan, like we've gone through just heartbreaks and just oh my god, another year, right? You're so excited. Oh, the joke was always, yeah, the Super Bowl was our it was the draft. Like, oh yeah, we got this guy, and then yeah, that person ends up sucking, or they were only there for a couple years and they leave. But yeah, I mean, it's been an amazing ride the last couple years. I mean, feel good, real good about this year. I mean, the injuries on the defensive side are definitely starting to pile up, but those coaches, they have them playing like they're defensively. I mean, the guys that they have are still just running around blasting people. They're 100%. So that I mean, that's all. That's to the culture. Once again, the culture. The coaches that build. It's about leadership. So offensively, I mean, man, they're scary offensively. They can do. It's
Mhm.
like they just decide when they want to just light it up and throw out some trick plays and throw, have Panay Sewell run the ball or catch the ball, or that's
Is that
always
the lineman?
yeah, yep, lineman number 58.
I
Yeah,
watched it. I was watching that and I was like, is that guy supposed to be running the ball? He
yep,
looks a little big. And
yeah,
Josh goes, he's a defenseman. I'm like, ah, that makes sense.
yeah. I'm ready for him to throw a touchdown pass, so I'm sure it's probably coming
Oh,
sometime soon. So yeah, he's phenomenal. But yeah,
so
exciting time to be a Lions fan. That's for
when
sure.
you're watching football, do you also look at the cheerleading too? Because that, like, you've always had an eye for that?
Yeah, like a lot more so during like college basketball because you'll see them on the sidelines, especially during like March Madness. So like both teams always have their cheerleaders. During the regular season conference play, the cheerleaders they don't travel for basketball games just because there's so many of them and kind of during the week. But yeah, a lot of the time during March Madness, I'll kind of look over and watch the cheerleaders. If I ever go to a basketball game, it's like, okay, let's watch the cheerleaders to see what they're doing.
Hmm.
Some of my other coaches or people that have cheered, for me before, they'll send like videos or pictures if they're at a game of cheers, like, man, this team isn't doing this, or this team sucks.
Yeah, that's why
So
you got your eye on the game and what's happening with the cheer team. That's for sure.
yeah, and you see, just the stunts and stuff like that. It's so exciting. They do a lot of super crazy stuff that we didn't do when I was on the team or even when I was coaching. Like it's insane.
Yeah, they elevate it for
Yeah.
sure. All right, last question. Well, not technically last question. The last question is where can people find you? But the second to last question, what have you changed your mind about recently? I like to ask this question because
Mm,
I know I'll frame it up for you while you think. But I like to ask this
yeah.
question because as adults, sometimes there's this belief that we are who we are and we don't change. And you know me, I call bullshit on a lot of things. And I mean, it could be something small, like what did I change my mind about
Yeah.
recently? Well, big stuff like I quit drinking 4+ years ago. That was a big change of mind,
Yeah.
and
100%.
so, but there's smaller things that I changed. Like I stopped eating meat. I changed my mind about that, and then I changed back, and now I eat fish and but not poultry or whatever. So, what have you changed your mind about?
Oh man, I gotta think. Um,
There's something.
I don't.
That's a stumper.
Yeah. I mean, probably cut this part out, but like, there's like political stuff that like I just didn't know about before. Like, I don't want to talk about that to like
Yeah,
open up a can of worms and people like, oh, shit.
but I think that's a good point. Like just to even if we like we're allowed to change our minds politically, especially
Yeah.
coming off that election. Like
Yeah.
and I think that is really a great answer, by the way, because
Yeah. No, I think I'm gonna actually go with that one now.
it really
Yeah.
is. It's a great answer because you are allowed to change your mind about who you vote for,
Yeah.
and it's your choice who you
Yeah.
vote for. And Josh and I live in a house where we vote opposite, but
Yeah.
that's okay. We don't have to
Yeah.
like. We're two individuals, so good for
Yeah.
you for changing your mind.
Yeah. So
Whichever.
I would say definitely, I would say the viewpoint, just being more open minded on some of the views, and just because someone may believe something differently from you, it doesn't mean you know I don't know, it doesn't mean like doesn't mean you can't get along with them. It doesn't mean that they're not a good person. It doesn't mean like all your values and beliefs and stuff are different just because one or two things. It's not. So I think a lot of people just get unfortunately really caught up with politics. I mean, it is something it's super, people are passionate about. It is important, obviously, and
Yes.
all the different topics and things like that. So yeah, I would just say being more open minded is what I've changed over the last few years. Because I certainly don't want to be the person that's either far this way or far that way. That just like, dude, like nobody wants to talk to you. You're that annoying person. Like you're the person that doesn't have an open mind. Which okay, on the other side, well, you're on the other side and you don't have an open mind.
Right.
So yeah,
Yeah,
um,
totally get it because that's how I feel. I'm like, listen, I like you for who you are. You vote for however you want to vote. Like, but there are people that feel it's
yeah,
polarizing. They're like, I will not be married to someone who doesn't vote the same way I do.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that's fine. That's their choice. And, but that's not what I subscribe to.
yeah.
So, to
Yeah,
each
you
their
lose a lot of friends, family members, of the people that are like that, and it's like, in the end, is it really worth it? I mean, okay, this person won this year, but 4 more years, it could be somebody completely different. It's like, I don't
I totally agree. Great. That's a great answer. Love it. All right. Final question. If
know.
people
Okay.
want to connect with you, where can they find you?
They can find me at Wings West, 5076 Sports Drive,
If
or on Facebook or Instagram.
Yeah, and if you are someone that is a fan of football helmets and
Oh yeah.
you repurpose those, so where could they find those, Chris? Like, is that on your Facebook or would you sell them somewhere else too?
No, just on Facebook, or just get a hold of me. I do it for fun. It was something where football is my favorite sport. Sorry, hockey people.
I'm not offended.
you know, Football has always been my favorite sport. I love college football. I love professional football. So something that I always liked. I was super fortunate that I always had a few before, and my favorite teams, the Detroit Lions, a Michigan Wolverines helmet, my high school football helmet. So I had a few, and then I'm like, you know what, I want to collect a little bit more. So I'd buy one on eBay or something like that, and then I was super fortunate where my wife allowed me. I was like, you know what? I want to get every single NFL football helmet. So I went online, went on eBay, and would just start bidding on some. And then I just got annoyed that someone would jump in last second. I mean, I'm guilty of that too. But
They
I'm like,
beat
you know
you.
what? I think I can do my own. Just play around with can of spray paint and YouTube videos on how to do this and how to do that. They sell decals online and things like that. I just started doing them, and then a couple of my friends were like, "Oh, will you make me a Lions one? Oh, will you make me a Michigan State or Ohio State or whatever it is?" I'm like, "Okay, sure." And it was just something where just do it for fun,
Yeah.
something to keep my sanity now that I don't have. I'm not coaching.
Yeah.
It helps, I guess, my wife. I'm not in the house. I'll be in the garage or something.
Well, and you did make a Buckeye helmet. You were a good friend
Yeah.
for my
I've
mom.
actually, I think I've done like 6 or 7 Ohio State
You
helmets.
have.
I'd say probably 4 or 5 Michigan State helmets. Those ones are not to say they're easy to make; they're easier to make. I'm starting to work on the Michigan helmets. The wings are just harder
Yeah.
because I don't want to do decals and make it look sloppy. So I'm starting to kind of work on that. And the navy blue, the matte navy, is kind of darker, so harder to find that color. But I'm starting to get there. So
That's so cool.
so my friends that are Wolverine fans, coming soon.
Well, if you want a helmet, Chris Wang, or come to me. I know how to get to him.
Yeah, I got that Lions one right there, and that Lions one right there. So.
Yeah. And the Lions are playing well, so
Yeah.
maybe you want one
Oh
of
yeah.
those. All right. Well, if you all are looking to connect with me, I am not hard to find either. On the hockey side of my life, kwings.com, Mindfulness Elevated, and Tony Will Coaching for professional development and lifestyle coaching. And then I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook at Tony Lentini Will. And then on Instagram, I'm Tony Will. And until next time.